Welcome back to Elite Star Global, the channel where music isn't just heard. It's felt. It's lived. And today, we're asking a question so enormous, so quietly devastating, that once you hear it, you won't be able to stop thinking about it. What if Piero Barone, Ignazio Bashetto, and Gianluca Ginobili had never stood on the same stage? What if Il Volo had simply never happened? Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine a world without that sound. Without those three voices colliding in the air like cathedral bells meeting a thunderstorm. Without the shiver that runs through a stadium full of strangers who suddenly feel less alone. That world is darker. That world is quieter in all the wrong places. And today, we're going to show you exactly why. Before Il Volo, classical pop crossover existed, but it breathed differently. It wore a tuxedo in an empty concert hall. It was admired from a distance, pressed behind glass like a museum exhibit. There were beautiful voices, yes. There were orchestras and opera houses and performers who gave everything they had. But something was missing. Something young. Something on fire. Then, in 2010, three teenage boys from Italy stepped onto a television stage, and the air in the room changed. You could feel it, even through a screen. Piero, Ignazio, and Gianluca weren't performing classical music at audiences. They were detonating it. And the world leaned in without quite understanding why. That was the moment classical pop stopped being a genre and became a movement. That was the spark. And without them, that fire never gets lit. Think about every fan who wrote a letter they never sent. Every grandmother who wept in the front row of an Il Volo concert, gripping her daughter's hand, whispering, "They sound like my childhood." Every teenager who thought classical music was not for them. Until one 3-minute performance rearranged something deep inside their chest. Without Il Volo, those fans wait forever. They scroll through playlists that never quite deliver. They sit with an unnamed hunger, for something sweeping, something operatic, something that doesn't just sing about love, but proves it exists. That audience was always there. Il Volo simply found them. In arenas from Buenos Aires to Tokyo, from Mexico City to Rome, they found millions of people who had been waiting, without knowing what they were waiting for. Without Il Volo, that generation never gets found. That hunger never gets fed. It was the night of Sanremo, Italy's most legendary musical stage. Three young men walked out under a waterfall of light, and the audience, seasoned critics who had seen everything, sat up straighter. Something in the room shifted. The orchestra swelled. Gianluca's warm baritone opened the first line like a door you didn't know was locked. Piero's tenor climbed, controlled, precise, heartbreaking. And then Ignazio. Ignazio's voice cut through the hall like a blade wrapped in silk, and you could hear the collective inhale of 3,000 people happening at once. No auto-tune. No pyrotechnics. No gimmick. Just three voices and the ancient, terrifying truth that music, real music, can make you feel something you have no words for. Without them, that night belongs to someone else. Without them, that memory, the one that lives in the hearts of everyone who was there, it simply does not exist. But this is not a fairy tale. It never was. Behind the golden harmonies and the standing ovations were three boys becoming men in the most public way imaginable. Homesickness. The weight of expectation. The quiet terror of a voice that hasn't fully settled yet, being asked to fill arenas. Relationships tested by tour buses and time zones. Moments where brotherhood was not a word, it was a daily, imperfect, beautiful choice. Piero, Ignazio, and Gianluca have spoken about this, the loneliness inside the spotlight, the arguments that only the closest bonds can survive, the nights when they leaned on each other because there was no one else who could possibly understand. That vulnerability, the kind that lives between the notes, is exactly what makes their music feel human. It is exactly what their fans feel when the melody reaches its peak and the tears come without warning. Without those struggles, there is no depth. Without that depth, there is no connection. Without that connection, there is no Il Volo. Let's be honest about what classical pop crossover looked like before they arrived, and what it risks returning to without them. It risks becoming beautiful but untouchable. Technically perfect but emotionally distant. A genre for people who already know. Not a genre that reaches through the screen at 2 in the morning and holds a grieving fan who just lost someone they loved. Fans have described this exact moment, searching for something after a loss, stumbling across an Il Volo recording, and feeling for the first time in weeks that music still existed. That the world still had something left in it worth feeling. Without Il Volo, that playlist leads to silence. That silence leads somewhere darker. These three men. With their voices, their brotherhood, their refusal to make music small, they have been, for millions of people, a lifeline dressed in Italian. And lifelines don't get enough credit. There is a concert, you may know the one, where the crowd goes silent in a way that silences don't usually go. Not the silence of boredom. Not the silence of confusion. The silence of 3,000 people holding their breath because what they are witnessing is too sacred to interrupt. Il Volo reaches the final crescendo. The harmonies stack, first Gianluca anchoring the earth, then Piero climbing towards something celestial, then Ignazio piercing the apex with a note that seems to hang in the air long after it should have fallen. And then, nothing. 1 full second of absolute silence. And then the room erupts. Not applause. Something older than applause. Something that starts in the chest before the hands even move. People cry who swore they wouldn't. Strangers grab each other's arms. An elderly man in the third row presses his hand to his heart and closes his eyes, and it is the most moved any human being has ever looked. That moment belongs to Il Volo. And without them, it belongs to no one. Il Volo did not simply make classical pop popular. They made it necessary. They proved that a 17-year-old with a tenor voice and a broken heart can change a room. They proved that opera is not dead. It was just sleeping, waiting for 3 boys from Marsala, Baracella, and Monteprandone to remind the world what it was capable of. They opened doors for every young artist who now dares to blend classical training with contemporary feeling. They gave an entire generation of fans permission to love music that their grandparents loved, and to love it loudly, passionately, in arenas, not just in silence. They expanded what it meant to be moved by sound. The universe where Il Volo doesn't exist is a colder one. A smaller one. A world where millions of people never find the music that finds them first. A world with one less proof that beauty, real beauty, is still being made. So the next time you hear Piero reach for a note that shouldn't be possible. The next time Ignazio's voice wraps around a phrase and you feel it somewhere below your ribs. The next time Gianluca's baritone settles into a room like the end of a prayer. Remember what that silence before the applause truly means. It means something rare is happening. It means 3 men chose to exist, together, in harmony, when everything could have pulled them apart. It means that in this loud, distracted, restless world, there is still music that makes you stop. Music that makes you feel. Music that makes you remember you are alive. Il Volo didn't just fill a gap in classical pop. They filled a gap in us. And the world, the real world, not the imagined one, is immeasurably richer for it. Thank you for watching Elite Star Global. If this story moved you, if you felt even one of those moments in your chest, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. Tell us, what is the Il Volo moment that changed everything for you? We read every single one. Until next time, keep listening deeply. The music is always worth it.